Everyone, I'm Allie with PotomacBeads, and in this episode of Better Beader, we're going to talk about pricing again, but we're going to talk about pricing for custom orders. It can be really difficult when a friend or a coworker or an acquaintance asks you to make a custom piece of jewelry for them. You don't know what to charge, you don't want to overcharge, you don't want to undercharge, and it's not something that already has a price tag on it, so it's almost like you're going into a negotiation. You don't want to feel like that, and you don't want to feel that pressure because you want it to still be fun and you want to make the person happy as well as you happy. So for years, I made jewelry as a craft to sell. Now I teach how to make the jewelry, and then if you want to sell it, it's for you. But what to do when asking or when people say about certain pieces that you have on, or they want to make something, or they know that you fix something. The best advice that I can give you is kind of to already have answers to those questions. If you make jewelry and you haven't sold anything at all, just keep in mind to kind of think about prices in your head, whether or not it's something simple like a stretchy bracelet or a little bit more complicated bead weaving project. You can think about prices ahead of time, but if you're asked, sometimes you need to know kind of that on-the-spot answer. The best thing that you can do to prepare for that question on how to kind of take a custom order and how to respond and negotiate price is to actually have a price sheet. So my sheet that I used to have was called my services sheet. And this was a sheet that lists out exactly all of the different services that I did, and then the price for each of this service. Now, obviously, I have a little disclaimer at the bottom that says it does not include the price of materials, and the prices may increase depending on the project complexity and ask for additional services that may be available. I had this sitting on the register of our bead shop, but you don't necessarily need to carry around something like this in your pocket, but it's good if you have a sheet written down that you can reference. For example, if somebody wanted a single strung necklace, just beads right away in a line, just like this bracelet or the simple strand bracelet, I charge $7 plus the cost of the beads. So whether or not you're doing a simple turquoise bracelet, $7 plus the cost of the beads is the service that I figured. I never counted in my actual materials as part of that service cost. I add that in addition to the service cost. Stretchy bracelets, $5, which includes the stretchy string. Multi-strand necklaces, $7 per strand. Multi-strand bracelets, $5 per strand. So these are to give you ideas of the amounts that I would charge to actually take in a custom piece. There's also questions to ask in addition to having that service list and the prices that you charge, whether or not it's per knotting or per inch or the different techniques, is things to ask. There's a number of different things that you want to make sure because you're doing something custom for somebody. One, you want to know how often are they going to wear it? Is it something that it's a once in a while, we're going to have kind of a higher end Swarovski bracelet, I'm going to be wearing this to a wedding. How and where are they going to wear it is important to ask because you want to know, one, what type of closure, two, what material you want to string it on, and three, if the materials are dyed or if they are a coated or a resin or a plastic, how their wear and tear is going to be affected based on what they're going to be wearing their piece for. If they're wearing something and making something for, say, a wedding, you may want to think there's going to be a lot of dancing involved probably. So you want a nice clasp that is going to offer a nice secure closure like this gold-filled lobster clasp here. This is a bracelet. If you're doing a necklace, same idea. You want to know what it's being made for and how you're going to be using it. In addition to knowing how the customer is going to be intending to wear their jewelry, you may also want to know a couple things. Are they allergic to anything? Are they sensitive to any particular metals? Or do they have a tendency to wear their jewelry when they exercise? These are things that you want to ask because it's going to affect how you actually make and manufacture their jewelry. If they are allergic to metals, you may want to stay away from metals and actually ask them, for example, this tidal wave bracelet here, would you like a glass closure, like a button, rather than an actual metal closure in case you do have an allergy? Is it hard for you to get on clasps? In that case, we could go with a stretchy bracelet, so that way makes it easier for you to take on and take off the actual piece. Now explain to them there's downfalls in each, that if you have a stretchy bracelet, eventually it can stretch out. Heavier beads will kind of have that stretch out. But again, ask them these questions so you know and you're not caught off guard. The worst thing to do is to deliver a piece and for somebody to say, oh, I thought it was going to have a different end on it, or I didn't realize it was going to be stretchy. So you want to think about these questions before you actually take a custom order. Again, do they want it to be stretchy? Do they want it to have a clasp? Are there metal allergies? The other thing to keep in mind, and I have a lot of bracelets here as examples because bracelets tend to be a little bit harder to make and manufacture than, say, necklaces. The necklace that I have on here, which is that rainbow sapphire cluster necklace, I actually have chain, so that way I can make it to have an extender chain. So the person can tell you they want a 16-inch necklace, 18-inch necklace. They generally are going to know how it hangs, but you can also use a lobster in that extender chain, so they have the options to hang it higher or lower on their neck and on their piece. Bracelets, it's a little bit more difficult to do that. You can put an extender chain or a safety chain on when you are using a lobster clasp, but not when you're doing a stretchy or when you have an actual button, unless you do extra loops for that button clasps. So you want to make sure when you are doing a bracelet, you want to make sure that you are getting the bracelet, because you don't want to have to remake the piece, that you're getting the bracelet length exactly. You want to make sure that people, even though they think they know their wrist measurement, I would always suggest with all of my customers, I just took a simple tape measure here, a sewing tape measure, and would actually measure around the wrist of the person. If I'm measuring the wrist on me, I'm going to say, okay, I have, say, a little bit under where I actually wear my jewelry. I have about a 5 3/4, 5.5 inch wrist. I don't want my jewelry to sit that tight on my wrist. So I want to keep in mind that I want a little bit of a play. Probably about 6 1/4 is where I wear most of my bracelets. It's able then to move around the wrist, and it's not super hard for me to get the bracelet on and off. Keeping that in mind, that I have that 6 1/4 inch wrist, that needs to be the interior of the piece. It's not going to be the exterior of the piece. This needs to be able to sit to the interior of that piece. You want to think about the size of the beads, and that can actually affect how the piece sits on. So if I measure this stretchy bracelet on the exterior, it's obviously going to be bigger than the interior. You need to think about the interior circumference of the bracelet when measuring people's wrists. Same with anklets. Wrists and anklets can vary so significantly and oftentimes have nothing to do with the person's body type or size. You can have somebody that is very slender that has a bigger ankle than someone that is not as thin. So keep that in mind. It's always great to kind of keep and have a little tape measure when you are taking those custom orders. Even if you have pieces or examples that are already finished, that you can have them slide on, have a little marker on it that has the different size and the different length that it is, and ask them what feels most comfortable. That's a great way to take a custom order, is to get to somebody to actually try something on. The same if you have a necklace. In our Ocean City, New Jersey location, we actually have necklaces on display that have the length hanging on them from a tag. So it says 16, 18, 24. That way people can put on the actual piece and get an idea where it's going to hang on them. Size and fit are very, very important. So you want to make sure when taking that custom order to make sure that you do get the accurate information. Some people may think they know their size, but they actually don't know the size that they need. So make sure to say, just to get it, to be certain, can I measure and can I actually take a measurement of you? They'll be impressed, hopefully, with your thoroughness, and that will add to the overall experience to make sure that the fit is perfect for that custom piece. In addition to necklaces and bracelets, you may want to think about offering earrings or anklets or other things into kind of the array of jewelry that you make. Keep in mind that when you're creating those custom pieces, not only does the time that it takes you to make the piece get counted, but also the time that it takes to gather the materials, meet with the client, and actually take down all of this information that makes that process nice, thorough, and you have a satisfied customer. Keep that in mind with that price if you are looking to make a little profit on it. If you're taking this custom piece for a friend and you think, oh, it's just fun and this is what I'm doing, you can always say to the person, this is the price for you. That way they know you gave them a little bit of a deal and you didn't actually factor in other costs. So that way if they then have somebody that wants it, they don't expect to get the exact same price, and you can be less caught off guard if you already have a price ready to go. So when you're taking custom orders, you want to make sure, number one, that you give a semi-accurate or pretty accurate price that you are going to quote. You don't want people to be surprised at the end that they were expecting a $20 necklace and it cost $85. So make sure that they know what materials are going into, ask those questions ahead of time. In addition to that, you always want to make sure that the fit is correct. So number 1 is the price. Number 2 is going to be that fit. Make sure that the fit is going to be great, that it's going to be exactly what you're needing it for. Number 3, ask about the use of the jewelry. Are they going to wear it all the time? Are they going to wear it once in a while? Are they going to be dancing or doing activities while they're doing the jewelry? That can impact both the material that you use as well as the metal if you are using metal on the jewelry. The metal often is going to determine an increase or kind of a savings in cost when talking about closures, clasps, or any metal pieces that are on the actual piece of jewelry. It also gives you the opportunity to add an extender chain, be it to the necklace or a safety chain on the bracelet or anklet. So ask the customer if they want that. Number 5 is kind of that make the presentation. So when you're delivering a piece of jewelry that you have done, after taking all of these measurements, I would recommend a down payment if you are making a custom piece, because you don't want to make something incredibly complicated or time consuming and then have the person never come to pick it up or never complete that payment. I speak from experience, it has happened. So it's always nice if you take 50% down if you're not a very good friend of the person. Sometimes even if you are, just say, hey, can you cover the material costs like anybody would do in any business, and have that be done early on. But number 5, you want to present the customized piece in a nice fashion and a nice way. You can get a simple little box, even a nice little envelope that you can put it in, tie a little ribbon around, and that will help in that custom jewelry presentation. So these are all examples and ideas for you as you go in and maybe sell a couple of your pieces or actually get commissioned to make some for friends, family, or even complete strangers. Be prepared, know the costs, know how to quote them, the size, and then that final presentation as well. Always with these Better Beader episodes, the idea is to make you a better beader. This hopefully is also going to make you a better business person as well if you go in and do decide to kind of get more involved and make the craft a little bit of a business venture as well. Again, if you make jewelry, you will most likely have somebody ask about a piece that you have on, question, and see whether or not you can make it for them as well. So be prepared for that fun and flattering thing to happen as well. If you need any materials to help you with that jewelry making experience, you can always visit us at PotomacBeads.com as well as PotomacBeads.eu. Hopefully I taught you a thing or two today, or gave you a little checkoff sheet and a checkoff list to make sure that you have on hand and ready to take your custom pieces. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, everybody, enjoy beading and have fun.